Hello, and welcome to the Alingo English Podcast. Have you ever had this experience? You're in the middle of a conversation, perhaps with a colleague or a friend, and you want to say something. You know the perfect English word, you can almost feel it, but it just won't come out. It's sitting right on the tip of your tongue, a ghost of a word, taunting you. The harder you try to remember it, the further it seems to slip away, until you're left feeling frustrated and maybe even a little foolish. And then, just as suddenly, an hour later, while you're doing the dishes or walking the dog, the word pops into your head with crystal clarity. Of course! The word was motivation, you think to yourself. Why does this happen? Why does our brain, this incredible machine capable of storing billions of bits of information, seem to arbitrarily delete English words overnight? Is it a sign of a failing memory, a lack of intelligence? Or is it something else entirely? The truth is, this isn't a bug in your brain. It's a feature. The phenomenon of forgetting is not a sign of weakness, but a critical, highly efficient process of information management. Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating world of neuroscience and language acquisition to understand exactly what's going on inside your head and, more importantly, what you can do about it. The main reason your brain seems to delete English words is rooted in a fundamental principle of neuroscience, the use it or lose it rule. Imagine your brain as a sprawling, complex city. Every piece of information, every word you learn, every memory you form is a pathway or a road in this city. A heavily trafficked road, used daily, stays well-maintained, bright, and easy to navigate. A small, rarely used alleyway, on the other hand, might slowly become overgrown with weeds, dark, and difficult to find. This process is called synaptic pruning. Synapses are the tiny junctions between neurons, where information is transmitted. When you learn a new English word, a new synaptic connection is formed, creating a new pathway. If you use this word frequently, in conversation, in writing, or even just by thinking about it, that pathway gets stronger and stronger. The neurons fire together, and as the famous saying goes, neurons that fire together wire together. However, if you learn a word and then don't use it for a while, that pathway weakens. The brain, in its constant quest for efficiency, identifies this pathway as low priority. It starts to prune it back, reallocating resources to the pathways you use more often. This is a brilliant survival mechanism. Your brain can't possibly hold on to every single piece of data you've ever encountered. It has to prioritize. And so the words you don't use often are the first ones to get a little rusty. They're not gone forever, but their access road is no longer a superhighway. It's become a dusty back road. This is where the concept of memory consolidation comes into play, and it's a process that happens largely while you sleep. Think of your day as a chaotic and busy learning period. You're constantly taking in new information, from the English words you're studying to the names of new people you meet. Your brain temporarily stores a lot of this in a short-term memory area, like a messy workspace. When you go to sleep, especially during the deep sleep and rapid eye movement stages, your brain doesn't shut down. Instead, it gets to work. It's like a diligent librarian, organizing and filing all the information from the day. It moves important, frequently accessed memories from the temporary workspace to the long-term storage shelves. It strengthens the connections for the things you practiced. And what about the words you only encountered once? Or the ones you learned months ago and haven't revisited since? The brain's librarian might decide that those are not important enough to move to a prime spot on the long-term shelves. They get shuffled into a less accessible area, or their connections are simply allowed to fade. That's the overnight deletion in action, not a sudden act, but the result of a nocturnal filing process that prioritizes what you've actively used and practiced. Beyond the use it or lose it principle, another major factor at play is something called the interference theory of forgetting. This theory suggests that forgetting is a result of new memories getting in the way of old ones. There are two types of interference: proactive and retroactive. Proactive interference is when old memories hinder the retrieval of new ones. For example, If you've been speaking your native language your whole life, the habits and structures of that language are deeply ingrained. This can proactively interfere with your ability to form new English sentences correctly or recall specific English words. Retroactive interference is when new memories interfere with the retrieval of old ones. This is particularly relevant for language learners. If you are learning both English and Spanish, for instance, a newly learned Spanish word might retroactively interfere with your ability to recall a similar-sounding English word that you learned a year ago. It's a very common phenomenon and a natural part of multilingualism. Your brain is a single system, and all the languages you speak and learn are constantly interacting and competing for attention. So it's not that a word is deleted, but rather that the memory of it is being blocked or obscured by newer, more active information. The path to it is crowded, and your brain simply can't find the correct turnoff in the moment. Another concept that explains the tip-of-the-tongue phenomenon is context-dependent memory. Our memories are not stored as isolated facts. They are highly intertwined with the context in which they were learned. If you learned a specific set of vocabulary words in a classroom, in the context of a textbook, you might find it difficult to recall them when you're in a completely different environment, like a noisy cafe or a fast-paced business meeting. The lack of familiar cues like the textbook, the teacher's voice, and the classroom setting can make it much harder for your brain to access that information. This is why immersion is so powerful. When you're constantly exposed to English in a variety of real-world contexts, the words and phrases you learn are associated with a rich tapestry of sights, sounds, and emotions. This creates multiple, redundant pathways to a single memory, making it far more robust and accessible regardless of your environment. The final key to understanding this phenomenon lies in the distinction between passive and active vocabulary. Your passive vocabulary consists of all the words you can understand when you hear or read them. Your active vocabulary is the much smaller subset of words you can actually produce and use spontaneously in speech or writing. When you're reading a book, your passive vocabulary is in full force. You can recognize and comprehend thousands of words. But the moment you close the book and try to have a conversation, you're forced to rely on your active vocabulary. The words you can't seem to recall are often those that exist only in your passive repertoire. Your brain has filed them away as known but not necessary for immediate use. The gap between these two vocabularies is where much of the frustration for language learners comes from. So knowing all this, what can you do to combat the overnight deletion of English words? It's not about fighting your brain's natural processes, but about working with them. First, embrace spaced repetition. Instead of trying to cram 100 words into one study session, review a small set of words over an extended period. Use flashcard apps that are designed to show you words right before you're about to forget them. This tells your brain, this information is important, keep it. Next, focus on active recall. Don't just read the word and its definition. Use it. Write it down in a sentence. Say it out loud. Try to use it in conversation, even if it feels awkward at first. The more you produce the word, the more you strengthen its neural pathway and move it from your passive to your active vocabulary. Another great tip is to create context. Don't just learn a list of isolated words. Learn them in the context of sentences, stories, or real-world situations. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, and read articles about topics you genuinely care about. This embeds the new words in a richer, more accessible network of memories. You can also try to teach someone else. One of the most powerful ways to solidify a concept is to explain it to someone else. The act of organizing your thoughts and explaining the concept forces your brain to create a stronger, more robust mental model of that information. And don't forget to write and journal. Keep a journal in English. Write about your day, your feelings, or any topic that interests you. This provides a low-pressure environment for you to practice using your active vocabulary and to experiment with new words. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, don't fear mistakes. The most important takeaway is this: forgetting is normal. It's a sign that your brain is working exactly as it should be. prioritizing information efficiently. Instead of feeling frustrated when a word slips your mind, recognize it as a signal. It's a little reminder from your brain that this word needs some more practice and attention. Laugh it off and look it up later. The act of looking it up and using it again will make the connection stronger the next time. In conclusion, your brain isn't arbitrarily deleting English words overnight. It's doing a sophisticated, complex, and highly effective job of managing an overwhelming amount of information. It's distinguishing between what you need to have on the tip of your tongue and what you only need to recognize. By understanding these fascinating processes, you can stop fighting your brain and start working with it. So the next time a word escapes you, don't despair. Your brain isn't broken. It's simply getting a little tidy. Give it a little help with consistent practice. And those dusty back roads will soon become superhighways again.